Good evening, folks. It's your old pal here, starting park car. Colby Evans here with another episode of the ARCA Racing Podcast. Though we didn't see the main series run this weekend, we had a little bit of ARCA East action, which included a bigger field size than last season. And, of course, we'll be going over the West race later this week. And we'll have a small intro, and then we'll quickly get into today's show here. Again, I thank you all for joining me. We recently hit over 170 subs, and I just cannot thank all of you guys enough for your support. The support of ARCA, just love talking about ARCA, getting this series back in the limelight. I'm just so happy, and I'm proud of this channel, and I can, again, not thank you guys enough for your support. So as, of course, a little intro, follow me on Twitter at @StartingParkCar. Follow the good friends ARCA Racing at @ARC_Racing, and the man himself, Brad Smith, at Trevor Brad Smith. The last car historian, badass himself, Brock Beard at Last Car on Brock, and the man who can find any low-budget picture for you if you try hard enough, David Pequeen. All of those in the link in the description. Go give them a follow. Those guys are the best. Whew, that was a lot. So where do we get into it? ARCA East. We had been very, very critical on the ARCA East series for 2022. That their series, the car counts, I knew they were going to struggle. I knew before the season had even started that this series was going to struggle with the car counts. We saw it last year. We were going to see it this year. I knew it was going to happen. I wasn't going to get my hopes up. I was going to see what we were going to get and then go from there. And we got 15 or 16 for New Smyrna. Not very good. I hated to admit it, but it was not a good race. We literally only had two cars who really only had a chance at this thing, who pulled away by almost half a straightaway on the track. And it was not good. It was not good. And it made me a little concerned for what we would see for the remaining, ARCA East standalone events until we got to, of course, the combo series events that are going to be taking place later this year. And then we got the entry list for this race. Last year's Pensacola race had a really, really disappointing 13 cars enter, with 2 cars pulling out after lap 5, leaving us with practically 11. And I was not really happy about that. I was worried that we would get even less than that. I was worried that it would not go as well. Yeah, again, the 2021 race, we had 2 cars out after lap 5. Yeah, we had 9. We had only 9 finish. And I was really worried for this season. My hopes went up, though, luckily, because we had a whopping, well, not necessarily good, as you guys could call it, but 16. And I would definitely call 16 cars better than the 13 last season, even if, yes, we were going to have a lot of starting parks, like I predicted on last week's show that we would have a lot of starting parks because it's an ARCA East event. What do you expect? You're going to have a lot of starting parks. You're going to have a lot of full race cars. So, Rex down in the chat, good to see you. We had some good stories, though, despite the field. We had 79-year-old Benny Chastain, who will be 80 later this year. We had Nate Moeller driving the 06 for Peterson. They were using their Ford, the Bill Davis chassis. It was Nate's very first start. He kind of told me it was going to be a start and park, and that's okay. I already kind of knew that anyway. I was just happy to see one of my good buddies, even if it's just for a couple laps, man. Racing a car is racing a car, and that's just so cool. It was cool to see a friend get a shot like that, even if it was just a start and park. Some other fun stories. We had Ashton Higgins, who was originally going to be at New Smyrna, actually, unfortunately, withdrew and was lucky enough to come back. Got the car ready for this race, which was happy to see. Daniel Escoto, after not being able to run New Smyrna due to health issues, is back. Willie Mullins is back again. He might run the full E-season. So despite the small car count, we had a lot of good stories. A lot of interesting stories coming into this race. But, of course, everyone was like, okay, are we going to see a replay of New Smyrna? Is it just going to be the 17 and the 18 going again? I even thought coming into this weekend that was not going to be the case. We had a very interesting entrant in this race. The number 1 of Jake Finch. Phoenix Racing back in NASCAR. Cool to see. And Jake has just been killing it on the late model scene. And I'm like, this team, don't sleep on Jake. That is going to be a car that's going to be tough to beat. And as we saw in the race, though, we'll go over it later, obviously, but as we saw in the race, he didn't have the speed to win, but if there was a little slip up by either Sammy or Taylor, he was going to be right there. As for other cars in the field, you kind of had your fillers. You had, like I said, Stephanie Moyer, Steve Austin, the guys, who they were going to run the whole race, but maybe obviously not be overly competitive. Just kind of there, get the best finish they possibly can for their team. Same with Donald Teague. I love Donald. Wanted him to have a little bit of better run in this race. As, of course, right now, Visconti Motorsports does not have a driver right now. Donald was only scheduled to do the first 2 races with the 74 team. And Visconti has stated that they want to run the whole 2022 East season. But right now, we don't have another driver. There's plenty of free agents out there, and a lot of great talent that for a team like Visconti, which has good equipment, they are a good team, could really benefit a young kid who has quite a bit of money. Some other good, it was good to see the Ferrier-McClure team. Actually, I think John is separated in the main series. I think this is just Jeff McClure's team. If you guys actually had seen the race or you saw pictures, it was the exact same car that Mason Diaz had driven at New Smyrna. It was actually the same exact wrap. The car looked exactly the same, just maybe a couple of decal changes. If you guys don't recognize Brandon Varney, he actually drove for a couple of races last season for Andy Hillenberg. But anyway, we had 16 cars. I predicted about 3 or 4 to 5 starting parks, only about 12 running the whole race. And pretty much my prediction was true. We went into practice, and I kind of knew how it was going to be. The 17 and the 18 I predicted were going to be 1 and 2, and sure enough, they were. Taylor Gray, using the exact same car from Phoenix, where they got that emotional win, was fastest. Sammy Smith was second. Leland Honeyman was third, still showing good speed out of the Young's Motorsports organization. Jake Finch was fourth. Varney was fifth. Higgins was sixth. Teague was seventh. Rose was 8th, Escoda was 9th, and Willie was 10th. And then you kind of got the slower cars who really just, unless something else major happens, you won't see them running 10th or better. And that's just the case. You know what kind of car you have, and if you're not going to run that good, you're not going to push it overly that hard. Was kind of cool from Steve Austin was actually DM'd me saying apparently Brad Smith got on the car. I don't know if he actually took some laps. It was actually kind of cool to see that Brad Smith, obviously, I've told you guys on here, Brad Smith, Eric Caudell, really, really good friends. Obviously, everybody loves Brad. Who doesn't love Brad? Who doesn't? Who doesn't like Eric? Eric Caudell's a good guy, too. I don't know if Brad actually went out and took some practice laps, but if he did, that'd be even cooler. And I'll even say, the new engine that Brad has in the 48 car, it actually got some good speed in it. I did not expect Brad to practice as good as he did. Steve Austin, who's actually watching the show live with us, he actually did get in the car and run some laps. So that's pretty cool, man. I tell you, man, I really hope someone one day does a documentary on Brad. If NASCAR man, Brock Beard, and anyone ever sees this podcast, we have to do a documentary on Brad Smith, his entire career. Like, what a story that would be. But yeah, going back to practice, definitely was going to be like the top 2 were once again going to be Sammy and Taylor all night, but that still was not the case. We had, in my opinion, one of the biggest shocking moments of qualifying. Neither the 17 didn't win, the 18 didn't win, not even the 1 won. Leland Honeyman in the 0-2 team won the pole by actually a pretty good margin, well over a 10th, on top of second place Taylor Gray. I was shocked. And I was really happy at the same time. Really shocked. But I was happy. Somebody knew, and, I thought this Young's Motorsports team was just going to be a joke. But it really shows, man, and I even predicted it at the beginning of the year. Don't sleep on Leland Honeyman. Does that team have the budget and the funding compared to Gray and Smith? No, not even close. But Leland is a good short track racer. And sometimes, even when you don't have the best equipment, as long as you got the knowledge and you know what you're doing, sometimes you can get right up there. So it was really good to see that happen. And sure enough, Sammy Smith didn't even qualify in the top 3. Second place was Taylor Gray. Jake Finch got third. Sammy was fourth. And he barely got fourth. Ashton Higgins was only 8/100ths slower. 8/100ths slower than Sammy Smith. Again, a very impressive qualifying effort by our top five. But as they kind of dipped below, it got a little bit slower. As 6th was Christian Rose, 7th was Varney, 8th was Mullins, 9th was Escoto, and 10th was Teague. We did have a scary moment, and we did have a scary moment in ARCA East qualifying. However, 79-year-old Benny Chastain, it looked like it was on the front stretch. I have not seen a video of what happened. I doubt there is a video, obviously, but unfortunately, Benny Chastain took a really, really hard crash. One of my friends sent me some pictures. He actually works for Andy Hillenberg, and sent me a picture. And honestly, Benny's 79. I don't care how good of shape you're in. You're 79 years old. You cannot be taking that big of a hit. It was very thankful. I know Benny's got some haters, but we never want to see anything bad happen to a driver. And it made me feel really good to hear that. Yeah, he was a little shaken up. Yeah, I got the wind knocked out of him. I mean, he's 79. He's gonna get the wind knocked out of him. But that Benny was okay. He was walking. He was talking. He even sent me a picture of him and Andy talking together. I retweeted it on my timeline. So it was really reassuring to see that Benny was not hurt. The car was hurt, but you know what? The car can be replaced. Okay? But it was really reassuring to see that Benny was not hurt. And although Andy's car is killed, it's not really killed. It can probably be fixed. It might need a new front clip, but it didn't look that bad. But obviously, I'm not in the shop, so I couldn't tell you for sure. But I'm just glad Benny's okay. I don't want to see anyone ever get hurt. Not sure what the deal is for Andy in terms of did he get a crash clause or does Benny have to pay for it? We don't know all that yet, but that's might be a funny story sometime. Anyway, Benny, we're all glad you're okay. We're all pulling for you just to make sure you're better. And I don't want to see anyone get hurt ever. So glad Benny was okay. Unfortunately, that took us down to a car because obviously Andy doesn't have a backup and they're not going to get it ready near in time. But it was okay as long as Benny was okay. Some other qualifying results. The 06, I don't know if he even took a lap. It didn't register on the chart that he did. He might have actually started his lap and then just pulled in. I've seen that done before too. The slowest car to actually take a time was Benny. He did get a lap in. I believe it was on his second qualifying lap. Or he actually, I forgot, he probably took the white flag and then crashed while going past the finish line. Again, I have not seen video, so I can't tell you what happened fully. Tim Monroe was 14th. Steve Austin was 13th. Brad Smith was 12th. Stephanie Moyer was 11th. And those were remaining cars up to 10th, obviously. And then for the people who follow my friend Spencer Gogol on Twitter, he actually put some nice tweets out saying that the 06 was going to be withdrawn and that the 06 car, they were going to peel the 6 off, not renumber that thing, peel the 6 off, take a number from Andy's car and put a 1 next to the 0. And I'm like, I tweeted out simply saying, this is why I love ARCA. If you have seen a picture of Nate Mahler's 10 car from Pensacola, that is why I still love this sport so much. You will never see that in NASCAR again. Last time we saw that was about 7 years ago with Carl Long and Morgan Shepherd. And I loved it then. But that's one of the reasons why I love this sport, why I love ARCA so much. It was so funny. It was cool. It represents everything about ARCA and why everyone is a family. And that's why I love the ARCA garage. I've been in all the garages. I have. But in my opinion, nobody is more family than the ARCA garage. Even to Venerini, to Gibbs, yeah, they can be a little hard on us sometimes, and they can, Bill, I've had Bill, not Bill, but Billy and, McFarland, say some comments about Brad before. That's happened, just saying, oh, we're in the way. It's nothing too bad. but they've made comments about Brad being in the way. And, sometimes we are. Okay, we're slow. Sometimes we're in the way. But at the end of the day, Billy and McFarland will help us out. I went up to Billy for some tips before on spotting. He's more than welcome to give me some tips. And Mark McFarland, I've ran into him a couple of times. He's great too. So, oh man, I could not get over how cool it was. And yeah, Nate only made 2 laps because I knew it was only going to be a start and park, but I cannot tell you how cool that was for him. And I'm happy that one of my good friends got to be able to do that. But I thought that was kind of the sad story turned into kind of a funny story, the classic tape job or, peeling a number off, putting another number on. That represents ARCA in a nutshell, and that's why we love it, man. So the race started, and I actually, for the people who were watching on Flow Racing TV too, you guys kind of had a tough go like I did. The Xfinity race was not over yet. The Xfinity race was taking forever to get done. So I actually had the Xfinity race on my TV because I was going to stream Flow Racing to my TV to watch the ARCA race. So I had the Xfinity race on my TV, and I had my ARCA race going right here on the laptop. It was so confusing trying to take notes for 2 races happening at the exact same time, trying to follow both races too. It was a mess. But you know what? I love doing it at the same time. And even to my shock, I figured that Leland was just going to lose the lead on the very first lap. I mean, with all due respect, I did think that Leland was going to be competitive this weekend. I didn't expect him to win the pole, but I also didn't expect him to probably be able to keep the lead. I mean, with all due respect, you got Taylor Gray, who's a madman on the restarts, and you got Sammy Smith, who wants to get to the lead very quickly. But Leland, to my shock, he held his own. He got the lead, and he held it for the first 27 laps. Very impressive, and it really does show. Given the circumstances, given the situation, that 0-2 car can be very competitive. And I'm excited to see how this team will do at other races. We've seen at the 18, it might be a beast on short tracks, but I really look at that race in Dover. That 1 mile high-speed oval, yeah, it's all about speed as well, but car control at Dover is very key. Handling is very key. You might have a fast motor under that hood. If that car doesn't handle right, you're not going to run good. And as we all know, that Dover race too, it pays very well. So I would expect a pretty, not amazing entry list, but about 20 cars. I would say about 20 cars for that race because that's about what we got last year. And I think that's the race where Leland's really going to show his speed is Dover. I really don't think that 18 car is going to win Dover. We're not here to talk about Dover. I'm sorry, guys. I got a little sidetracked. So we had 29 laps in. In those 29 laps, like I said, Nate Muller went to the garage. And I even really kind of felt bad for Brad Smith. I wish he would have ran more laps because, Brad was holding really good pace. And, like I say, for the people who also say, the one thing I've also wanted to have people talk about to people is I've had a lot of people criticizing me about, cheering a guy who runs so slow. And I just want to give you guys an insight of, even though Brad is slow, just how fast he is still going. Let's put it like this. You guys go to the Rusty Wallace driving experience or the NASCAR racing experience. You take a ride around in a short track, or a big track, look at your lap times that you're running. Compare that to what Brad's been running at those specific tracks. He's running 3 to 4 seconds faster than what those guys are running. And that's just Brad. So first off, think about how fast the quick cars are going, and then there's Brad. So to anyone who criticizes Brad for being slow, let's see you do that at 54 years old. Because I guarantee you won't be as good as him. So for the people who criticize me of being a fan of Brad Smith, they're just haters. That's all they are. But Brad only ran 24 laps. I knew he was going to pull in early. Luckily, though, in case you guys didn't know, Flow Racing actually gives an extra $200. And I actually really am glad about this, that they do get paid for being on TV. Every car that's entered in the race gets an extra $200. I like that. So Brad pulled off after 24 laps. 5 laps later, we had our first incident of the night. Just before this caution, Taylor Gray had taken the lead from Leland Honeyman, who proceeded to kind of fall from first all the way down to third, which, again, I kind of knew was going to happen. Poor old Willie spun out. Willie Mullins also brought out the first caution at New Smyrna, so not a good start to the season for Willie, but luckily, by the end of the night, he would recover very greatly. Free pass on this caution was the 0-1 of Stephanie Moyer. Not really having the best go at it early in her E-Series career. She is running the whole season, in case anyone didn't know she is. But, yeah, tonight was not a good night for Andy Hillenburg. We'll just say that outright. None of the fast track cars finished the race. I don't think any of the fast track cars even made it halfway. No, they did not. I mean, technically you can say that the 11 is an Andy Hillenburg car, but that car comes out of the Willie Mullins race shop. So technically yes and technically no. But 28 laps later, the leaders were going into turn 1 when all of a sudden, apparently from what I saw, the 60 of Escoto, from what I saw, either he got loose and ran into her or just flat out dumped the 0-1 of Stephanie, and took Stephanie quite a while to get the car back going again. And I wonder if maybe she damaged the transmission trying to get the car shifted, because she got it back going again, but then she immediately retired from the race right after that. So it makes me wonder that for the people who saw the race, did she maybe break the transmission? Because that's what had to have happened, because she dropped out immediately after that happened. I know the tires would not have been flat spotted with that small of a crash, so it's not like they had to retire due to lack of tire. She could have kept going. I have to believe that maybe while reversing or shifting, she just maybe blew the transmission. I don't know, but wish we had some updates on that of what happened there to Stephanie, and that's a shame, because looking at how the night went, they could have had a top 10 finish there for her. By this point, the other Andy Hillenburg start-and park entry of Tim Monroe had pulled off after 46 laps, so it looked like our start-and parks were done for the day, leaving the final 12 cars, which were going to be full race cars, to finish the race for themselves. 9 laps later, we had the halfway break, and these restarts, man, I tell you, were just so interesting. You had the 17 of Taylor Gray on the inside, and then you had the 18 of Sammy Smith, and man, the way these guys were running into the corner so hard, side by side, not giving an inch. Great racing, man. Great racing. And Taylor Gray, after about 2 or 3 laps of really driving it in there, washing up a little bit, pushing the 18 up, got the lead. Lap 75 break. And remember, in the ARCA E-Series, you only have 6 sticker tires that you're allowed to change. So with the 2 breaks, most of the teams will go with 2 right sides on the first pit stop. And then, of course, for the final break, you'll take 4 tires. Now, for some of these cars, taking 2 tires helps. And as we would see it when the track would go back green. God, what am I trying to say here? Oh, they would take 4 tires, and the car just wouldn't agree with that much better. And that was the case, as we went back green, the 17 of Taylor Gray was not the same. He actually not only fell back as far as 5th during that run. He fell back as far as 5th. And it was shocking to see. Guys like Leland, guys like Jake, and even guys as let's see here, who was the other car that passed him? Man, I can't remember on the spot. It's been a couple days, but yeah, he fell all the way back to 5th place. It was really weird to see, and he basically said on the radio, tires are junk. Yes, they were. They were. Those General Tires were not agreeing with him. So Sammy Smith was able to take the lead after that. He held it for quite a while, despite the many restarts we had. Just 4 laps. I'm getting ahead of myself. 13 laps after the break, we had the 60 of Daniel Escoto spin. I'm not sure if this was with help. Even with Charles on commentary, we didn't really get a good replay of the 60 spinning. I think it was just by himself, because I thought for a second, oh, it's Stephanie. She got her revenge. Oh, wait, she was already off track. So I guess maybe the 60 just spun, but knowing this is a short track, he probably got help, but I was never able to see who actually did it, unfortunately. After that, 4 laps later, unfortunately, the 22 of Steve Austin, who, from what he told me, that they had been having radio issues the entire race, was not really running a very perfect pace. You know, I mean, he was kind of just doing the best he could. For, I guess, radio issues, he couldn't hear a spotter maybe, or he couldn't hear the team. So he's just kind of out there on his own. And I don't think there's any more helpless feeling than being in a race and you can't hear anyone. So, yeah, and then he would come off a turn 4. Now, Steve, if you are still watching with us, could you tell us, did you just get loose off of 4, or what happened? Did it step out on you? Either way, the 22 ended up with a hard crash into the front wall. And it was sad to see because, man, Eric, for some reason, he has like the worst luck. And I hate it. You know, you saw Eric crashed at Daytona just due to a tire. And, you know, now they have this DNF here too with a crashed car. So, Steve, if you are watching, because I think you are in the chat tweeting, so could you tell us, is the car done or can it be rebuilt? So, I don't know. Anyway, so that it was sad to see that happen. 19 laps later after that, we had another break, but it was becoming well known after these restarts that, man, that 15, that 17 of Taylor Gray could really hang with the Sammy Smith on the restarts. And man, I tell you, those restarts were so entertaining. Side by side, not giving an inch, somehow not door banging each other. The 17 of Taylor Gray. Say what you guys want about Taylor Gray. He threw that thing into the corner so impressively, and it stuck. I have no idea. With how old the pavement is at Five Flags Speedway, I have no idea how that 17 car was able to stick in the corners without it jumping out on him. Unfortunately, it's just kind of how it goes at a short track. The bottom line is usually going to prevail, and Sammy Smith would eventually, every time, no matter how hard Taylor would try, the 18 just would sail on. But it was known that if the 17 could just get out front, that he would probably pull away. I would definitely say that Taylor Gray had the best car of tonight. I would honestly say to you guys that Taylor Gray had the best car. Absolutely. I would not disagree on that at all. And I think that just goes to show you, the 18 team, they may be hard to beat. Excuse me. But as we saw at Phoenix, and as we saw here tonight, they are beatable. They are. That 18 car was not the class of the field. It may have led the most laps, but if that 17 had got out front, mark my words, he probably would have pulled away. So after that, we ran 19 laps until the break. The next break, we had 38 laps until the 74 spun. Poor Donald Teague at this point. The 42 of Christian Rose had been sitting on pit road. The car was stuck in gear. And then the 74, I don't know if he had a flat tire or what happened. But he came back out 15 laps down. And then poor Donald, I don't think there's anything worse than getting spun out by a car that's 50 laps down and you're 14 laps down. At this point, you're just like, what am I doing out here? Like, oh, that really does gotta suck. But yeah, they kept going right in front of the leaders, might I add. This happened right in front of the leaders. So that was kind of shocking. Almost 2 times tonight, the leaders got taken out in lap car accidents. And it was kind of weird to see that despite only 9 cars being on the track by this point, it was still mayhem out there. It was weird. 9 cars left on track, and absolute mayhem is just unfolding. It was weird, man. So 7 laps later, then the 44 Brandon Varney would spin out. No problems there. Kind of same issues as the New Smyrna races. I noticed that the 44 was smoking into every corner. The car never blew up, but if you guys watched the broadcast, you guys would have noticed that the car was smoking a lot. Every time it would go into the corner, but not on the straightaway. I don't know what you guys call that. I don't know what happens there, but it was really weird. Really, really weird seeing that 44 would smoke in the corners, not on the straightaway, but in the corners, not on the straightaway. It's weird. So then after that, 2 laps later, we had the 49 spin out, and man, this was sad. Ashton Higgins, man. In my opinion, Ashton Higgins, MVP of the race. Reason why I give him the MVP race and not Leland Honeyman, this kid is a relative, I would say even to me, unknown. I did not know who Ashton Higgins was. After tonight, I am thoroughly, thoroughly impressed. And I think the best thing that we saw all race long was when we saw Ashton Higgins' pit stop. What did he have in his box? Nothing but a small tool cart. That is grassroots, and I love that. You look at DGR, Gibbs with their full pit boxes, and then there you see this 49 team with a tiny tool cart. That is the definition of putting more quality into your equipment than quantity of your better equipment. I like that. Ashton very impressed me in this race, and I look forward. I hope he runs the rest of this East season, and races like Iowa, races like Bristol, races like Milwaukee, where we're gonna see bigger fields with the combo events. I look at Ashton Higgins is going to shock a lot of people, and I'm really, really excited to see it. I really am. But it was kind of heartbreaking to see him spin out and unfortunately have to come to pit road and lost a lap in the process, which cost him a guaranteed top 5 finish. So that sucked. Once again, as we saw in the restarts, the 17 of Taylor Gray had actually managed to lead a couple of those laps where they were running side by side together. Unfortunately, one of those restarts, he got too good of one, as on the last restart, after the 49 spin, ARCA officials ruled that he had jumped the start. And I could kind of see it. I really could. I was actually kind of shocked they didn't penalize him earlier. But he had to drop to the, I guess you could say, the edge of the lead lap, which was only 6th place. And I felt bad for him because he really had a car that probably could have won. And I just knew that last restart, he was going to sail that thing right into the corner, whether it's stuck or not. And unfortunately, he had to get past some the other cars first. He had to get past Ashton, Leland. During all this, poor Jake Finch, they had a tire go down. And, you know, as we all know, the surface, like I said, at Five Flags is really rough. It's old. And Jake got about halfway down pit road. And I don't know if his crew just told him to stop because, you know, it's already 5 laps to go. We're already done. I don't know if they just told him to stop or not, but needless to say, right in the middle of pit road, the one car just stops. No caution, and they just kept the race green. I like that. You know, I like that, you know, the one team, they know they're done. They know they're not going to get a good finish. So they just said, screw it, just stop there. We're already going to start packing up. A shame way to end because the one had a top 3 finish coming. But needless to say, even though the 17 did get to 2nd place, not enough time to catch the 18 if he was going to do it all. Sammy Smith, 2 for 2. KBM, 2 for 2. And Sammy Smith wins the Pensacola 200. 2nd place was Taylor Gray. 2nd place was actually not Taylor Gray. I'm actually stand corrected. I apologize, folks. Taylor Gray did not pass Leland Honeyman. Leland actually managed to hold off Taylor Gray and get his best career finish of 2nd place, which again goes back to my point at the beginning of the show. Do not sleep on Leland. That team has the speed. So Leland was 2nd. Taylor Gray was 3rd. Again, my mistake. Daniel Escoto for the Josh Williams ARCA team. Very impressive 4th place finish. And in my opinion, the best part, Willie Mullins, Big Willie himself, and for Andy Hillenberg getting a top 5 finish. Man, That is a feel-good story, man. And it really does point out, Willie is doing really good in the points right now. He's fourth. He's fourth in points in the East Championship. And, it's funny because the Mullins Twitter account actually put out something as, should we maybe run the full East season? I hope they do. It's just, I thought that was really cool. And, yeah, like what they're saying in the chat, it was never confirmed if that's actually what happened, but all of the sudden on the cooldown lap, the 0-2 car was facing the wall. There was no damage to it. And the only conclusion that I could come up with that some people in the chat are agreeing with is that the 17 dumped him after the race. Now, if that's the case, I don't know why. It's not like the 17 did anything, the 0-2 did anything bad. He was simply doing this thing called blocking. That's part of racing. So, I mean, if you put it down to the 17 wrecked him because he couldn't get past him after the race, then yes. Then, and that way, that warrants some hate towards Taylor Gray. But again, we don't know the full story yet. But that's the only conclusion I could put together of why the 0-2 was stuck in turn 3 for the better part of a good 15 minutes. Remaining finishers, Brandon Varney came home 6th. Ashton Higgins was 7th. Jake Finch had fallen to 8th. Donald Teege was 9th. Christian Rose was 10th. Excuse me. Steve Austin was 11th. Stephanie was 12th. Tim Monroe was 13th. Brad was 14th. And Nate, our last competitor, was 15th. Overall, I would definitely put this at a way, way better race than New Smyrna. And I would highly recommend catching the, I don't know, is it going to be on NBC or USA? I would highly recommend catching the playback on USA. This was a very good, for only 15 cars and really only 9 being out there, this race had a lot of what people would like. I really liked this race. A lot better, a heck of a lot better than that New Smyrna race. I would definitely give this race more stars, better rating than the first one. So, yeah. I would highly recommend going back and watching this race if you guys have the chance. It will be uploaded to YouTube at some point, but it was very, very good. Highly, highly enjoyed it. In terms of our point standings, of course, Sammy Smith is leading now by 12 points over Taylor Gray, as Taylor finishing 3rd really hurt him. And, as we said with car counts, I mean, with a 12-point lead, has Sammy Smith already locked up the title? I know that's a weird question to ask, but with maybe not a big car count coming for Nashville and Dover the next 2 races, well, Dover, Nashville, actually, before we hit our combo races, is there a possibility that even with the combo races in the bigger field, will Sammy Smith have already locked up the championship? Who knows? But yeah, Taylor Gray is 2nd. Leland Honeyman is 3rd, just 1 point behind him. Big Willie is 4th, 22 points behind. Donald Teege is 5th, but remember, he's not running full-time. Stephanie Moyer is 6th. Christian Rose is 7th. Those 2 are running full-time. Steve Austin is running full-time. He's in 8th. Brad Smith right now is 9th in points. And, I don't want to say right now, but Dover's pay is really good. And if Brad's willing to drive all the way to Florida, I have to believe he's going to be at Nashville. I think Brad might actually end up running the whole East Circuit. Brad Smith, I'm saying, guys. I think Brad's actually going to run the whole East Circuit. Wouldn't blame him. Because remember, you get a bonus for being in the top 20 of ARCA owner points. I don't know if he might get a bonus for being in the top 15 for ARCA East. And if I was Brad, I'd go for it. I really would. But yeah, like I said, guys, I would highly recommend this race. For an ARCA East event, this was good. I would easily give it an 8 out of 10. Easily. But those are your point standings. Right now, technically, Kyle Busch is leading the East Championship. Will he win the Owners' Championship in the main series, though? That's another story for another time. But anyway, again, that was kind of the East race, guys. I'm going to take a quick water break. We'll go over some news We got 4 people watching with me. We only got 2 likes, so if those other 2 people could hit the like button, we'd greatly appreciate it. I'm going to take a little drink of this, and then we'll go over some news, and then we'll get into our Irwindale preview. So yeah, we got a lot of I don't have a couple of big news. For some reason, this Team Stange, is that the name? Team Stange Racing is apparently going to field a car at the Mid-Ohio race. Am I correct? And I think it's a very interesting story. We got if someone in the chat could fill me in on what they're doing. I don't have the article pulled up here, but I'm going to go ahead and pull it up on the ARCA Racing page, because I want to let you guys know I want to let you guys know what's going on with this Team Stange Racing thing. Doesn't look like it's on the ARCA Racing page, but anyway, the Cup team that said that they were going to run, Cup is also doing an ARCA program with Matteo Nonini. I am not good with names. I'm sorry, guys. I am not good with names. They will be running the 46 as a Mustang. For people who don't know, ARCA has recently approved the use of 2022 Mustangs into the ARCA East and West Series. Not the main division yet, but just the ARCA East and West Series events. As, of course, with running some actual Cup events. I think that's pretty cool. Apparently, it's pronounced Nini. Again, I am not good with names. I'm not good with pronounce. It took me 5 years to correctly announce Jacques Villeneuve's name correctly. I'm not kidding with that. I used to pronounce it Villeneuve. Apparently he raced in F2 last year. So cool, man. I mean, hopefully that'll give the race some publicity. Any publicity for this series we'll take. We love it. And, again, I would not sleep on that team. They obviously have the money to be competitive. Again, that's a race right there. I don't think the 18 is going to win. I think we're going to have a lot of competitors for that race at Mid-Ohio, There's also some speculation about this Stange team, but I don't want to get into all that right now. I'm just happy that supposedly right now we're going to have another team coming in. As many of you guys know, Alex Clubb, awesome dude. That guy works. That guy works really hard for his stuff. He owns a car called Nightmare, so that's pretty cool. The blue and black car, you guys don't know, is announced for Nightmare is announced for the next race, but with a driver by the name of Rita Thomason. My friend Mark Christie from Front Stretch reported that she will add a couple of races to her schedule. Thomason will run the 03 for Elko, which I will be at, and DuQuoin State Fairgrounds, pushing her total to 6 events this year. Now, I was thankful enough to meet Rita I think it was about last year at Talladega. We met Rita, and she's a very, very lovely lady. And I think she said she's the first LGBTQ woman to run in a long time. I think it's great. I think it's great that we have, more women drivers in the sport, and a guy like Alex Clubb, he needs the money. He doesn't. He needs the money to help go for a full season because they want to go for a full season this year. Alex, has expressed that he wants to go full time. He has nowhere near the money to do it. So he, needs some help. And as we mentioned before, the 03 technically did run Daytona. That was under the Willie Mullins entry, but the ownership was also technically credited to Alex Clubb as well. So a couple of good news stories there. From what Steve Austin has just said in the chat, Clubb has all races sold except for 4. Now, Alex has told me, though, he does not want to show up and do starting parking. And respect to that. I wouldn't want to show up and do a starting park for those 4 races, but I do hope that they can find a way to show up to all 4 so that way they can make sure they get the top 20 bonus and overall can get a good owner point ranking because, a good owner point ranking can sometimes help you get sponsorships. But going into our final portion of the show, boy, it's already 45 minutes in. Thank you guys for sticking with me. We got West action. You know, they had their combo event a couple of weeks ago at Phoenix. This is West specifically only. Now, we don't have an overall big entry list, but the good news is we have the same amount of cars there that we did last year. We had 18 last year at the first Irwindale race. We have 18 again. So notable entries, Sebastian Arias is back in his 4-car. We have Kyle Keller, who's now in the 12, because the 12 was taken for the first race. He was in the number 70. Nick Jondes will actually be driving this time. They withdrew from Phoenix. Stafford Smith will be in the 08 car for the Mike Holleran team. Andrew Tuttle will be once again with his own car. Paul Pedroncelli and PJ. Would expect probably Paul to do a start and park as usual. One of the big stories I will see on here is Trevor Huddleston. Now, as many of you guys know, Trevor Huddleston was involved in the infamous finish last season where he kind of low-key, okay, he did. He pretty much costed his teammate the championship, thinking the race was over and letting the 16 of Jesse Little go by. Now, it was also announced that he would not be returning to Brucati Racing, Sunrise Ford Racing for 2022, and his options right now are not known. Well, he's back. Supposedly, this is the same equipment that Dean Thompson had run last season, basically in a partnership effort with Brucati and Sunrise Ford Racing. So, supposedly this is the same equipment from Sunrise Ford Racing, just under a different ownership. I'm definitely curious to see how this equipment runs. Again, Irwindale is that type of track where, you know, it's not the bottom line. Irwindale is a really fun track because it's not the bottom line that's the preferred line. It's the outside line. It's a very unique track. It really is. In case anyone's wondering, I got the payouts right here. $12,400 for the winner with all contingency decals, $5,300 for second, and $39.50 for third. With 18 finishers, last place will be $1,100, but with the $200 extra from Flow Racing, 18th place is actually $1,300. But yeah, like I said, I would definitely look into this series more. I praised the heck out of the West Division last year. They put on some amazing races. I even went out as far to say is that the West season in 2021 was better than the main series. And I will still stick to that. That racing last season was amazing. It really was amazing. Anyway, in terms of picks there, now, we can't really base the championship points right now because for starting any ARCA race, you will get points in that said division. So right now, technically, Taylor Gray is leading the championship point standings in the West Division, even though he's obviously not running full time. So it'll be after this race where we'll really get a look at the championship point standings, who's ahead, who's not. So I can't really report on the points championship for the West Division until this race is over. Some kind of sad parts about this. Bobby Hillis, unfortunately, is not on the entry list. This is the first West race that Bobby has missed in almost 3 or 4 years. So that's kind of sad to see that Bobby's not running. But like I said, guys, would highly tune into this race. Flow Racing on TV on Saturday night. Like I said, 18 cars, but West always seems to put on a good show, even with a smaller field size. You guys know how it goes. It's always good to see. Some other entry list notables, as we know, Takuma Koga is back. Todd Souza is going to be there. Already talked about Andrew Tuttle. Austin Herzog. With all due respect, I agree with some people in the chat. I do expect the Herzog to probably struggle this season. Would not shock me just because he's a rookie. It's hard to adapt, especially when you're in a competitive team. Bridget's back again. Of course, badass Sarah Burgess, who recently got those awards for excellence. Again, she deserves those. In terms of my race pick for this race, I would either have to go with Jake Drew or honestly, Trevor Huddleston. Those are my 2 picks for this weekend's race. You guys can list your picks in the chat or the comment section below. And this race is Saturday. Let's see here. Saturday at 9 p.m. Now, again, why is it at 9 p.m. here? Well, that's because it's on the West Coast. The time changes are a little different. So for me, it's 9 p.m. Whereas, for other places there, it's 7. So, but I'll still be live tweeting it with you guys. You guys might not be up with me that late, but yeah, we'll be covering that race. And I hope you guys who have Flow Racing will enjoy it as much as I will. That kind of concludes the ARCA Racing podcast for this week. I do have some fun announcements that I wanted to get to at the end of the show, is that we are doing a giveaway. With now having 171 subs, again, thank you for the support. We are close to 250. And when we reach 250, I have over 150 164 scale mint on card package die casts. And I will be personally giving away 2 of my personalized die casts to one lucky subscriber when we get to 250. So subscribe, like the video. When we get to 250, I will personally announce it live on the show. That subscriber will simply have to DM me on Twitter, and he or she will get his prize. So I'm happy to announce that. So guys, like and subscribe, and I cannot wait to get that giveaway out to you guys. And it all just depends on how the quicker we get there. So anyway, again, I thank you guys for joining me on another episode of the ARCA Racing podcast. Again, like, subscribe for more because of the giveaway. Follow all of us on Twitter. I'm going to try to get this podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts sometime because I want to branch us out. And again, you guys have a good rest of your night. We'll see you all next Wednesday for the ARCA Racing podcast. But I will be back here tomorrow doing another video for Backmarker Battles covering some COTA storylines. Tune in tomorrow. So again, guys, have a good night. Stay safe. Don't do anything stupid, and have a good night. Bye, guys.